Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Gurudev 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 Gaura Premanandi, Haribol, Hare Krishna. Jai Om Vishnu Padmanamamsa Parivajagacharya Stutara Shatashi Srimad Swami Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi Haribol Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhaktivajna Bhakti Krishna Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 23. Na brahmanaistu laye bhuttamanyat Pashyami vipraha kimataha paramtu Yasmin ribihi prahutam shadhayaham Ashnami kamam nat tatangi hotre Na brahmanaistu laya bhutamanyat Pashyami vipraha kyamataha paramtu Yasmin ribihi prahutam shadhayatham Ashnami kamam na tata grihotre Ladies. Word for word meanings. Na, not. Brahmanaihi, with the Brahmanas. Tulaye, I count as equal. Bhutam, entity. Anyat, other. Pashyami, I can see. Vipraha, O assembled Brahmanas. Kim, anything. Attaha, to the Brahmanas. Param, superior. Tu, certainly. Yasmin, through whom. Dribihi, by people. Prahutam, food offered after ritualistic ceremonies are properly performed. Shraddhaya, with faith and love. Aham, I. Ashnami, eat. Kamam, with full satisfaction. Na, not. Tata, in that way. Agnihotre, in the fire sacrifice. Purport, translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhu. O respectful Brahmanas, as far as I'm concerned, no one is equal or superior to the Brahmanas in this world. I do not find anyone comparable to them. So when people know my motive after performing rituals according to the Vedic principles, they offer food to me with faith and love through the mouth of a Brahmana. When food is thus offered unto me, I eat it with full satisfaction. Indeed, I derive more pleasure from food offered in that way than from the food offered in the sacrificial fire. Purport. According to the Vedic system, after the sacrificial ceremony, the Brahmanas are invited to eat the remnants of the offered food. When the Brahmanas eat the food, it is to be considered directly eaten by the Supreme Lord. Thus, no one can be compared to qualified Brahmanas. The perfection of evolution is to be situated on the Brahminical platform. Any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by Brahmanas is certainly a condemned civilization. Presently, human civilization is based on sense gratification, and consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. Should I read this again? Okay. Translation. Okay. Translation beginning. O respectful Brahmanas, as far as I am concerned, no one is equal or superior to the Brahmanas in this world. I do not find anyone comparable to them. When people know my motive after performing rituals according to the Vedic principles, they offer food to me with faith and love through the mouth of a Brahmana. When food is thus offered unto me, I eat it with full satisfaction. Indeed, I derive more pleasure from food offered in that way than from the food offered in the sacrificial fire. Purport. According to the Vedic system, after the sacrificial ceremony, the Brahmanas are invited to eat the remnants of the offered food. When the Brahmanas eat the food, it is to be considered directly eaten by the Supreme Lord. Thus, no one can be compared to qualified Brahmanas. The perfection of evolution is to be situated on the Brahminical platform. Any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by Brahmanas is certainly a condemned civilization. Presently, human civilization is based on sense gratification, and consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. No one respects Brahminical culture. Demoniac civilization is attached to ugra karma, horrible activities, and big industries are created to satisfy unfathomable lusty desires. Consequently, the people are greatly harassed by the sacrifices, greatly harassed by governmental taxation. The people are irreligious and do not perform the sacrifices recommended in Bhagavad Gita. Yagyad bhavati parjanyaha. By this performance of sacrifice, clouds form and rain falls. Due to sufficient rainfall, there is sufficient production of food. Guided by the Brahmanas, society should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Then people will become very happy. Anad bhavanti bhutani. When animals and man are sufficiently fed with grains, they become stronger, their hearts become tranquil, and their brains peaceful. They can then advance in spiritual life, life's ultimate destination. Om Agyanatimanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Dadati Salabhadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanaha Sitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vachakan Vitam Cha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shmari Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vicharnane Nirvishesha Shunyvari Pashtatya Deshatarane Vanchakalpatarubhisha Kripasuname Vacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavarinyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurutrishe Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Surupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Kyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Suratal Pangur Mama Manda Materkati Matsravasva Baramboja Radha Madana Mohanao Divyad Vindaranika Pajamada Shimandra Nakada Simasana Stal Shimandra Shila Govinda Deva Prishtalibi Sevyono Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsi Vata Tata Stitaha Karshan Venus Vener Gopir Gopinata Shri Snunaha Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sutedevi Pranamami Hari Priye Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jai. So this verse is a virtual basket of subversive, revolutionary statements. So it's revolutionary because it goes completely 100% against the status quo of modern civilization. Okay, so first of all, in the purport, and this verse, we are talking about, first of all, God, Krishna, who's God. This is Lord Rishabhadev speaking. And he's telling everybody what will please him. So the first point about modern civilization is that modern civilization is atheistic. So because modern civilization is atheistic, the only self that is around to please is one's own self. There's no higher self. There's no Paramatma. There's no Bhagavan. Or, at the very least, there are little Ishvaras who are called politicians or dictators or kings or whatever. And kings tend to be a little more pious. At least they accept there's a God, or there's something higher than them. But everybody else, they're the highest. So first point is that modern civilization is atheistic. That's the secular civilization. Those who believe in secularism, they're also humanists. That means only the humans are the highest, people in the universe. And among the humans, those who happen to become controllers of humans, well, they're the highest people, and those are the people who should be worshipped. So that is not a very happy situation for the people. So now, the devotees we challenged, no. He said the Supreme Lord is the Krishna. Everything belongs to Krishna. Ishavasyam yadam sarvam yat kincha jagat yam jagat tena tyaktina bunjita magredha kasya suddaram. So everything animate or inanimate is controlled and owned by the Lord. Therefore, one should take only those things necessary for himself which has been set aside as his quota and not accept other things. So, now the Lord himself is now talking about what will please him. So, the Lord eats through the mouths of the brahmanas. So, who are the brahmanas? So, just the word brahmana means someone who knows what is Brahman. So, when we talk about brahmanas, we talk about qualified brahmanas, someone who actually knows who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What is it? Yatanti tattva vidas tattam yajjanamadvayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate. That his non-dual substance is there are three aspects of it, or there are three facets of it. You have Brahman, it's the all-pervasive spirit. Then you have the Paramatma, who's a localized form of the Lord in the heart of every living entity and every atom and everything in the world, mountains, so forth. And then finally you have Bhagavan. So these are so one who knows these three features, God in these three features, he is a Brahmana. So it's described elsewhere in the Bhagavatam that even among the Brahmanas there are different grades there are different classes even among the Brahmanas. There are Brahmanas who are addicted to fruitive activities. There are Brahmanas who are knowledgeable. There are Brahmanas who are strictly follow Vedic principles. There are liberated Brahmanas, and then finally you have Vaishnavas, somebody who's a great devotee of the Lord. So, but still the Brahmanas as a class, they're important because they give to everybody. They guide people on the path toward realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Brahmanas, they're directly representing the Lord. And the Lord is more pleased by feeding Brahmanas, when you feed Brahmanas, than even you feed ghee into the sacrificial fire. So therefore, this being India, so this is still part of the culture of the way of life here. So you see that people perform sacrifices, and then you have to feed Brahmanas for the sacrifices. On holy days, very important titis and so forth, you invite Brahmanas and you feed them. So that's Vedic culture. Problem is that Vedic culture this being Kali Yuga, Vedic culture is not in such a nice way today. It's still, qualified Brahmanas are not as easy to find nowadays as they were in other times and ages. And that is, according to Bhagavatam, this is also the fault of the Brahmanas themselves. When Shringi, the son of Samika Rishi, he cursed Maharaj Parikshit. So Maharaj Parikshit, he was a pure devotee of the Lord. So that was a great offense. And for that offense, the whole class of Brahmanas, they fell down. And so it was in this way that Kali entered. He became prominent in the age of Kali. So since that time, with the fall of the Brahmin class, now we have the fall of the rest of the civilization. And this is what Shringi's father, Samika Rishi, predicted. He said, now that you've destroyed the king, then all manner of irreligion is going to come. This is a great offense. This king is a great saint. So, the present human civilization is based on sense gratification. And consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. So, again, this is the status quo of society. This is the society we have. We have so many nice television shows, so many diversions, sports. Everybody loves cricket. And cricket now has become just a ridiculous industry in itself, isn't it? It's you have just so that two teams, India and Pakistan, can practically kill each other in a sporting match. You have this whole institution, there's worldwide institutions that's built up where you have, in different places, you have, the different districts have cricket tournaments, and then the cricket tournaments, you have the recruiters coming and say, okay, this person's good, let's make our state team. And then the state teams compete, and then you have recruiters come, and for the professional teams, they say, oh, this person's the best, that you're really good, and then we'll sign you on for a multi-billion, $1,000,000 or many crores rupees contract. And then you've got everything, you're making so much money, and everybody's watching the TV, and everybody is hoping that at least through our sports teams we can kill the other country, because that's better than a nuclear war. That would really disturb our sense gratification. So maybe that's not so bad as compared to nuclear war. But nuclear war will come because people are committing so many sinful activities. They're killing cows. They're killing so many things. So Prabhupada says, presently he says, any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by Brahmanas is certainly a condemned civilization. So Brahminical culture means following the Supreme Lord and people who guide everybody on behalf of the Supreme Lord, who are called Brahmanas. That's not secular society. The Supreme Personality, the International Society of Krishna Consciousness, which is Srila Prabhupada's institution, is not for making our peace with the secular society. We are for converting secular society to become followers of the Lord. We want to convert it into Brahminical culture. That is our social objective. So, in one sense, nowadays we tend to run so many programs and counseling programs. People have stress and they come to us and we give seminars on how to deal with stress. But the reason people are stressful is because they live in a demonic civilization. And there is no cure for the stress. There is no actual cure for the stress and the problems they have unless they change this civilization. So, our message to everybody who is having stress is, if you really want to do something about it, then you will take to this process that is given by the Brahmanas, which is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You will read Srimad Bhagavatam. You will understand what are the directions of the acharyas and the great sages and munis, and you will conduct yourselves according to them, according to their directions, and you will change your civilization to follow the guidance, to be guided by the Brahmanas. That is the cure. So, people, because the Brahminical class has failed the people, the Brahminical class itself has pretty much fallen down. One of the missions of ISKCON, our social mission, is to reestablish this Brahminical class. We're for establishing Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, but first there must be Brahmanas, because everybody depends on the Brahmanas. Even the Kshatriyas depend on the Brahmanas for their protection and well-being. After all, if Krishna is saying that feeding me through the Brahmanas, I relish even more that than the ghee and sacrificial fires, then The Brahminical class, which is missing in modern secular society, needs to be reestablished. And that's our most important social program. It's our most important social program. So all other social programs, so-called social programs, those are not so important. Marriage counseling. Anyway, people generally do what they're going to do anyway, with or without the counseling. That's, was it modern secular science has a poor track record in this regard, isn't it? This is secular society. It's guided by science now, right? So how well have they done? Why are people so unhappy in their marriages and in their lives? If science could give everything, why can't they give this happiness to people? Isn't it? It's like, Delhi now is a modern city. This is becoming more and more of a problem. Of course, my country that I'm from, America, this has been a problem for a very long time. Say about half the people who get married get divorced. So it's a 50-50. Actually, nowadays, more people are single, never married, than they are married. Who are eligible to be married. It used to be that vast majority of people, even in my time when I was a young child, maybe 80% of the people who are eligible to be married were married in America. Now that's different. Now most people are unmarried for some reason. Big, huge social change. And so what they try to do is they try to study this scientifically. They get psychologists and sociologists, and they try to study husbands and wives who seem to be living happily together. And they see what their life is like. And after they see what their life is like, they say, well, these are the kind of things people who are happy in their marriage, these are the kind of things they do. And then they come to say to the people who are unhappy, and say, well, we've studied this subject very deeply, and we've seen this is how married couples, they relate with each other, and this is how you should relate. And they try it out, and they just can't do it. They're miserable. So they don't know that the problem is not because they're not going about getting their sense gratification correctly, but their problem is that they are godless. If you're godless, who is the person? You have to satisfy somebody. Krishna is known as Rishikesh. Rishikesh is the master and controller of the senses. So, therefore, if you disrespect or reject Lord Rishikesh, your senses will turn against you. Only by the support and the protection of the Lord can you not be victimized by your senses. This is what people don't know. Therefore, when they pursue some sort of, the way of modern civilization, which is sense gratification, because their motive is for sense gratification, they reinforce the cause of their suffering. This is the problem with karma. You do karma, you simply perpetuate your suffering. You have to be born, take on a particular body to enjoy a particular result of your karma. If you're pious, lady or gentleman, then you might get a good body, but if you're impious, you will not get a good body. But either way, each body is always troublesome. So therefore, Vedic civilization means to somehow or other minimize this trouble, because the goal of life is not the satisfaction of the self, but actually the satisfaction of the super self. So, here's another point that people in secular society think we're crazy to believe in. So, Yagyad bhavati parjanyaha. Rain comes from sacrifice. Okay? Is that what they teach in schools these days? Those of you who are sending your children to schools nearby, is that what they're teaching your children? No. They're teaching your children rain come from clouds. Clouds come from the sun, because the sun brings the rain from the oceans, and it goes on like this. That's the scientific explanation. There's no God in all that. Because there's no God in that, there's no reason to perform sacrifice. Isn't it? So this is what the teachings, the secular teachings do. They destroy your bhakti. We should not be sending our children to the schools of the karmis. We should have our own schools in which we can teach what the actual truth is. So we don't want to be condemned. At least save ourselves. Just like on an airplane, if there's no oxygen all of a sudden, they say, first put your oxygen mask on yourself, and then put your oxygen mask on others. So therefore, for our own Krishna conscious society, because we're talking about social programs now, we're talking about civilization, we're talking about brahmanas and so forth. We need to have our own schools. We need to have our own syllabus and not the government syllabus. Because what's the government teaching us? The government is teaching us all these things. The government is teaching us so many demonic things. They'll make us give sex education to children. Teach them how to have sex pleasure at an early age and just completely ruin them. No education system before, this past century ever had that. People just basically, they figured it out. Animals, they don't need sex education, right? Why do humans need sex education? The reason the modern society gives sex education in the schools is to corrupt people. They want to corrupt the youth so that they will never, ever become God conscious. That is why they have it. And that's why we need to oppose it. We need to oppose these things. We need to oppose these different initiatives. It's not enough for us just to chant Hare Krishna and be happy and come to the temple programs. We have to preach. So we have to distribute books, Srila Prabhupada's books. And not only distribute his books, but we also have to explain them. Okay? I want to give some corporate examples like this. I remember there was in the United States, there's a think tank called RAND Corporation. Some of you may have heard of RAND Corporation. Anyone heard of RAND Corporation? No one's heard. Anyway, so think tanks are these institutions, often for-profit, sometimes academic, where you have a lot of very intelligent people with PhDs and very smart people. And they come together and they think about different things that the government can do or that the people can do or that businesses can do that will benefit them. So in this particular case, they did some analysis of the military, and they came up with a very striking conclusion that if you do this, if you follow this policy, then the enemy will be able to completely destroy you in a nuclear attack in 15 minutes. And so they wrote a book on it even. It was a top secret classified book. And then it was a masterpiece. It was wonderful. It was a brilliant composition. And then after the first introduction of it, we've introduced this book, this is what we've written in it. One of the persons said is that this book will completely convince anybody who reads it. It will completely convince the generals if you read it, if they read it. That's the point. So one thing that book distributors, I think you have this experience, and the preachers have this experience, that we distribute so many books. And how many people actually read these books? Some people read the books, definitely. But this is why we have classes. We also have to explain the books, isn't it? Otherwise, there's be no need for classes. And because people, this is Kali Yuga, people are so dull, you can see practically people are not trying to come into the temple. I mean, this temple is not even is hardly full. We only have like a handful of people here, right? This isn't like Janmashtami time or anything like that. This is the normal day. I mean, we have the most wonderful philosophy, the most wonderful culture. We have the absolute truth. And hardly anyone has come to hear it. So that means if we really want to convince the people, we have to go out and convince them. So, you read this book? Okay, you take this book. Please take it. And some people will some people will read it. Definitely, some people do read the books. But we also have to explain it to them. We have to interact with them. We have to make friends with them. When we make friends with them, then they become more interested. Oh, you're my friend. Now what do you have to say? That's a very important part, interacting with people. So many people come here. You know, people from the local area, people from around India, people from around the world come to this temple. So they come here, we need to meet with them. We need to talk with them as much as possible, interact with them, make them feel welcome at home. Very nice. Just like my grandfather, 1965, he came to India. So he had like a 2-month grant from the U.S. government to travel all over India. So one time he was in Calcutta, 1965, in the Kali Ghat, in the Kali temple. And the Kali temple, they had just performed a sacrifice there. In those days, they were still killing goats and everything, and so there's blood and flies everywhere. That's how he was describing it to me. And so from the temple, while he was standing around waiting what to happen, a priest comes out. Pujari comes out. And he comes up to him and starts talking to him. And so he starts explaining to him what the Kali temple is, what they're doing, the sacrifice and everything like that. And, you know, his English isn't fluent, but he can communicate. And my grandfather, he's happy. Oh, you know, he explained this to me. So he takes out of his pocket a rupee. And back then a rupee was a lot of money. He gives it to the Pujari. And the Pujari says, oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Say, may Goddess Kali bless you. So he reaches into his pocket, takes out another rupee and gives it to him and says, here's another if she does not bless me. But you get the idea that, you know, the Pujari in the Kali temple, he felt it in his heart that it's my duty to at least talk to this person who's come to our temple. So this is Kali temple, what to speak of the Vishnu temple. You know, he's come. Somebody's come. They should be treated very nicely. This is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we want to make people devotees from whatever walk of life they come. You know, it said, Kirati hunandra pulinda pokasha. So this very famous verse, it talks about all the different kinds of mostly foreign devotees who can be converted from their very sinful lives into Vaishnavas. One of those mentioned is Andhra, which is actually present-day Andhra Pradesh. So according to Vedic Shastra, even Andhra Pradesh used to be one of these, you know, sinful or not so uncultured places. And it says even them. And if you go to Andhra Pradesh, you see actually very, you know, at least, you know, they became very cultured. You go to Tirupati, for example, very cultured place in the midst of Andhra Pradesh. So we're the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We have to welcome people. We have to devise means to get people to come to our temple. We have to devise means to go out and meet people in their homes and in their places and in their institutions. Because even we distribute the books, people still need explanation. They still need association. Right? Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. How's it go? Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha. Sarva Shastra Koi. Sadhu Sangha Lava Matra Sarva Siddhi Hai. That Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhi Hai. So, just a moment's association with a devotee can give all perfection. So it's a full package deal. You not only have the book Bhagavata, but you also have the person Bhagavata. Right? Nashta Prayeshva Bhadrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So the seva is to both the person Bhagavata and the book Bhagavata. So both go together. So this is the basis of our preaching movement. So we are a subversive movement. We are trying to create a revolution in education, in lifestyle, in science even. According to Bhagavatam, the science is wrong. And we have to convince people, we have to convince the scientists that they're wrong. That means we have to develop the means, the sophistication, the techniques, and so forth, to be able to explain to the scientists how they're wrong. This was why Srila Prabhupada created the Bhaktivedanta Institute. Srila Prabhupada from the very beginning was opposed to Darwin, opposed to evolution. But the evolution, this is what they teach in the schools, that people come from monkeys. Okay? That there's an evolution, that first there's some blob, lifeless blob, and then from the lifeless blob, life comes. But Prabhupada opposed this. Life comes from life. Ultimately, life comes from the Supreme Personality of God. It is Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. So practically speaking, everything, what we believe, what we're supposed to believe, our life, according to the secular point of view, is completely crazy. But we say that the secularists are completely crazy. And so therefore there's always this battle, there's always this fight between the devas and the daityas. There's always this fight between them, the demons and those who are the godly people. So, if we want to win, we got to play. We got to preach very vigorously. We have to take this philosophy very seriously, not speculate about it, not try to get comfortable, especially not try to make a compromise with secular society in order to have a peaceful life. If you want a peaceful life, don't come to the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. If you want Krishna's service, come to Krishna. Come to ISKCON. But if you want peace, don't come here, because we're not all about peace. There's no peace in this world. This world is not designed to be peaceful. It's actually designed to be unpeaceful. Isn't it? If this world were meant to designed to be peaceful, Krishna would have created it such. But that's not the purpose of this world. The secularists, they are under the misconception that they are lords of the universe. They want to be masters of the material nature, which is why they're so interested in science, mastering science, so they can master the world, so they can live more comfortably, they can live longer. Here's a multi-billion-dollar industry is longevity, how to prolong people's lives. They're doing so much research to figure out how to make people live longer and happier, right? Just to live longer in this body. Billions of dollars are being spent on that research. But the very first thing that Shukadev Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit, what is the use of living 1,000 years like a tree? Better a small moment of realization. Just like Katvanga Maharaj. He had only a moment to live. But he spent that moment just to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in substance, that the civilization, the modern civilization, is demonic. It does not respect the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas are the agents of the Lord by which the Lord can be pleased and who guide the rest of society to realize the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. And ISKCON's primary social program is the reestablishment of a qualified Brahminical class in society in order to reverse the irregularities in society and make people happy. So I would like to stop here and take any questions. Yes, Prabhu. Anybody have?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice lecture regarding this Brahmanical class, to how to establish this Brahmanical class. So my question is that you are telling that we have to change the civilization frequent time in the lectures. So what is mean by changing the civilization? I mean, very much things we are accustomed to live in this civilization. We can't move out. So what is actually mean by changing the civilization? And second question is.
Well, we'll deal with it one question at a time. Okay, so what is meant by changing civilization? What means by changing civilization is, well, we're talking about, it's comprehensive. It's just like, for example, the modern civilization does not follow Brahminical culture. So that means getting modern civilization to follow Brahminical culture. It's pretty simple, straightforward. Now, that's the overall objective. Now the details about how we're going to do that, that's going to depend a lot on many factors: your time, place, person, circumstance. For example, if you're uneducated, you probably can't preach to big scientists on their level. But if you're a big scientist yourself and you somehow become Krishna conscious, then you should use your science to preach to the scientists. So like that. But the point is that the end result we want to get to is the reestablishment of Brahminical culture in society. So, yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you just one point was raised that we should come to Krishna for his service, not for peace.
Yeah.
I agree, but how do I get this strength in this tug of war between Deva and Asur? It is outside also, externally also, I have to fight, and internally also.
Okay, well, first one point I want to make is that 4 kinds of people come to Krishna. One is Pirit, those who are suffering. So they do come to Krishna. But, like the other 3 people, they're not pure. They have some impurity, okay? They're coming for their own benefit, not for self-realization. So I just want to make that point. In the beginning, yes, people do come for peace, but that's not the end point, is peace. Now, as far as dealing with, your question is internal?
That we should not compromise. That point was that we should never compromise with the secular or demonic people outside, and I understood that demonic tendencies inside also.
Yeah.
Like this desire for liberation or peace, it's also kind of demonic because it's
an impure motive.
Yes. So how not to compromise with such tendencies?
Well, that's going to be, you have to follow. If you're acting under the direction of someone who's freed from that, then you're okay. Okay? Because you're acting under higher guidance. That's the point. You may be, you see the thing is that on ourselves, we act on our own behalf, then we are acting for our own self-interest, whatever that may be. But when we accept the higher guidance of Guru and Krishna, in other words, the Shastra as given to us by the Guru and other Brahmanas, this is why you need Brahmanas, then even despite your imperfections, you're still protected. Okay, you're still making spiritual advancement. It might seem that you are not happy, but here's the big point, is that ultimately our goal is transcendence, is to transcend the modes of nature. Therefore, the key is to be doing our prescribed duties that are given us by Guru and Krishna and the Brahmanas, whether we're happy or not. Then we're situated on the platform of transcendence, even though we are still not, completely free from the influence of material nature. But because we made that determination to act according to the Lord's direction, we are nonetheless, above. We're acting above the modes of nature. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Krishna is telling Arjuna to transcend the modes of nature by working in knowledge. Okay?
Thank you very much, Guruji.
Hare Krishna. Other questions? Prabhuji. Krishna Priya Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. You pointed out a very relevant point that it is really revolutionary. It is a revolution. The whole civilization is based on sense gratification, and leaders are making those policies. The whole civilization is condemned like crazy. So, how to go about it? Main thing is this: how to go about it, how to revolutionize it is. How can we, a single person can do it?
Well, practically whole books can be written on this, but as far as preaching, as far as changing, the function of the Brahmanas is to speak the truth and give guidance to society in all manner of things, and directly and indirectly how to realize that. So just like, for example, in the 5th canto of the Bhagavatam, okay, so here you've got astronomy. You're talking about actually what the different planets are and everything like that. And the point is that this is being explained by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj. So he's giving material science, he's explaining the material world, but he's explaining it according to the Shastras. So that's the point. So we have to get ourselves in that position to be able to explain all kinds of things according to the Shastra. Just like, for example, in the very beginning of Bhagavatam, so one of the, it was Sutta Goswami, one of his qualifications was that he was learned in all the different philosophical systems, all the 6 darshanas, he knew Mamamsa, Nyaya, Sankhya, other philosophical systems, and he was therefore able to explain or put forward Bhagavat philosophy in defiance of all these other systems. So if modern science is like one of the core institutions or core communities, the scientific community that's reinforcing this secular demonic society, then some of our Brahmanas have to become learned in those philosophies, in those ideas and sciences, and be able to defeat the scientists. So this is, of course, not everybody can do that, because, it's like some people, they're Brahmanas, but they're more like devotional, like I'm going to do puja, I'm going to do cooking, I'm going to do sankirtan and like that. So they might not be able to preach to scientists, but they're doing this, and they'll be able to relate to other people in different parts of society, but according to our different abilities, we need to occupy these Brahminical positions. So we have a very kind of like expansive program. That's why Prabhupada was also very interested in scientific preaching as well. So we have the book distribution, we have our temple programs going on. Those are absolutely necessary. But we have to expand it. We have to expand our program and expand our influence. The social program goal is, again, it's reestablishing that Brahminical culture. And so we have to, part of that means disestablishing the people who are now running society. So there's necessarily going to be conflict. Is that okay? Any comments?
Thank you.
Any further comments, Prabhu?
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Prabhuji, would you like to add anything?
हरे कृष्णा हिंदी
जरूर।
तो पिछले 2 श्लोकों में जो भगवान ऋषभदेव ने तुलना की है कि मनुष्यों से जो श्रेष्ठ हैं ये भूत प्रेत हैं, उनसे भी श्रेष्ठ हैं गंधर्व हैं, गंधर्वों से श्रेष्ठ सिद्ध हैं, सिद्धों से श्रेष्ठ किन्नर हैं, किन्नरों से श्रेष्ठ असुर हैं, असुरों से श्रेष्ठ देवता हैं, देवताओं से श्रेष्ठ इंद्र हैं, इंद्र से श्रेष्ठ दक्ष जैसे लोग हैं, दक्ष जैसे लोगों से भी श्रेष्ठ शिव जी हैं, शिव जी से श्रेष्ठ ब्रह्मा जी हैं, और ब्रह्मा जी श्रेष्ठ मैं हूँ। भगवान कहते हैं कि मैं ब्रह्मा से श्रेष्ठ हूँ, और फिर मुझसे श्रेष्ठ हैं कौन है? ब्राह्मण। तो यहाँ पर ब्राह्मण का मतलब शुद्ध भक्त वैष्णव। जो शुद्ध वैष्णव हैं उनको भगवान जो है अपने से बढ़कर के बताते हैं। अब उसी संबंध में इस श्लोक में भगवान कह रहे हैं कि उन वैष्णवों की तुलना में मैं उन वैष्णवों की तुलना और किसी से नहीं कर सकता। फिर पश्यामि विप्रा कि मदः परम, तो उनसे बढ़कर के और मैं किसको देख सकता हूँ? तो भगवान अपनी दृष्टि बता रहे हैं कि मेरी दृष्टि ऐसी है कि मैं तुलना उन वैष्णवों से तुलना मैं किसी की भी नहीं करता हूँ, फिर उनसे बढ़कर के मैं किसको देखूंगा? फिर भगवान कहते हैं कि अगर उनको जो है श्रद्धापूर्वक भोजन कराए कोई व्यक्ति, तो उनके मुख से मैं जितना तृप्ति पूर्वक खाता हूँ, उनके मुख से खाता हूँ, उतना अधिक तृप्ति मुझे अग्नि में आहुति डालने से नहीं होती। तो एक तो अग्नि में आहुति डाली जाती है, अग्नि भी भगवान का मुख है और ब्राह्मण भी भगवान का मुख है, तो दोनों मुख भगवान के हैं। अग्नि के माध्यम से जब भगवान को आहुति दी जाती है तो सही सामग्री हो और सही मंत्र हो और जो है सही विधि से जब आहुति डाली जाती है तो भगवान प्राप्त करते हैं वो आहुति। तो वो एक प्रकार से भगवान को भोजन कराना है। लेकिन दूसरे प्रकार से भगवान को भोजन कराना है, वैष्णवों का जो है भोजन कराएं, वैष्णवों को भोजन कराए, और श्रद्धा पूर्वक आदर पूर्वक वैष्णवों को जो है अगर भोजन कराता है कोई व्यक्ति, तो भगवान कहते उससे मैं ज़्यादा तृप्ति का अनुभव करता हूँ, मैं ज़्यादा संतुष्ट होता हूँ। तो ये भगवान की जो है ये सूचना है, भगवान ये सूचना दे रहे हैं कि अगर हम जो है वैष्णवों की सेवा करते हैं तो बताया गया तस्मात् परतरम देवी तदीया नाम समर्चनम, कि भगवान से ही बढ़कर के जो है पूजा है वो उनके भक्तों की पूजा है। तो उनको भोजन कराएं, उनका आदर करें, उनकी सेवा करें वैष्णवों की, तो भगवान अपने से ज़्यादा बढ़कर के मानते हैं। हरे कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I remember when I was first joined the movement, this is, the Brahmana Bhojan. This is the reason this is so important is because, this is actually one of the first verses I remember reading when I was a young bhakta, and how important, because that was my service. I was actually cooking for devotees. He had 2 kitchens in the temple, one for devotees, one for the deities. This is in Ireland. And so I read this verse and I was very inspired. Okay, I'm actually pleasing the Lord in the best way possible. So this is very, very important. So Brahmana Bhojan is also part of Vedic, reestablishing Vedic civilization. If you don't feed the Brahmanas, how can you have, Brahminical culture? All right, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.